Good morning, everyone. For the record, it is May the 4th, 2022, and there may not be a lot of you out there that are going to get this reference, but may the 4th be with you. And glad to have this meeting on this day. With that said, this is our agent-facing webinar series. At this time, we go through a lot of different information and things that will benefit you from an agent perspective to help you grow your practice. And we always design this as if we can help you get one more lead, close one more client, then this is what this is for. So we're excited to have everyone on, and thank you for joining us. With that said, for today, I did change the title of the meeting. It went from, introduction to Blue Rocket to why branding is important, because that's really what Mike, who is on the screen and has graciously given us his time, is going to talk about. And I'll do a brief introduction. We'll take care of a couple housekeeping things, and then really I'm going to pass it off to Mike and we'll go from there. But as always, because I see a few names and people that I don't recognize on here, and glad to have you. Just how we operate this is right now, because of the amount of people that we have on, we always have it muted. But if you have any questions, there is a Q&A bar on your Zoom bar, or Q&A button on your Zoom bar. If there's any questions, throw your question in the Q&A bar. We're going to have plenty of time afterwards to go through if there are any questions, but we'll make sure that we get those addressed throughout the time that we have here. Outside of that, if we like to be a little interactive, so really quick, just to see how this works. For everyone that's on, raise of hands really quick. Everyone can raise their hands, and then I'm going to do an actual activity because I already referenced them. But who is familiar by a raise of hand when I say "May the 4th be with you"? Who knows by a raise of hands what I'm referencing? We have a few. Oh gosh, we just have a whole bunch of people. That's great. We only have a couple people that don't know what it is. So. For those that filling in the gap, of course, May the 4th is a Star Wars reference to May the Force be with you. And everyone has dubbed May the 4th as pretty much Star Wars Day. So that's what today is. I appreciate your guys' participation. Glad to have you on. So really quick, as an introduction to what we're going to be talking about today, as I said, we changed the title to Why Branding is Important. This is also acting as an introduction to our partnered company, which is called Blue Rocket Marketing. So Mike is the creative director of Blue Rocket. He has close to a decade of experience within branding and graphic design and things like that. And his real specialty is on taking a message, an idea, a concept, and putting that into a form of branding, which is really in our world a mystical, mysterious word that most agents aren't terribly familiar with and what that actually means. Because when I say branding, for the most part, when I ask a lot of people, a lot of times they think like, oh, that's my website, or branding is my logo. And hopefully I'm not stealing too much of Mike's thunder. But branding is not something that we're not really taught in our class how that works and what to do with that. And that's really what I wanted to bring Mike on to have that discussion, because that's really his forte and what he does really well. And we'll have him on in the future unless he completely messes this up. To talk more about how we build our personal brand and some activities and things that we can do. But we've massively benefited from a lot of the things that Mike has done. Praxis Agency Consulting Group actually just went through a rebranding ourselves, and Mike was the centerpiece of helping with all that. We're really excited about that change and the colors, the logos, and everything that came together to create that message that we want to our customer basis. So without any further ado, though, I'm going to pass the mic off to Mike. and let him talk about the idea of, a little bit of an introduction to himself, but then also answering the question of why branding is important. And if, like I said, if there's any questions, put them in the Q&A bar. We will talk about them afterwards. We'll have plenty of time for that. Without any further ado, though, Mike, the floor is yours. And again, thank you for your time and jumping on.
Not a problem. Thank you, Nathan. As Nathan said, my name is Mike. I've been working with companies on helping them with their brands for a little bit closer to 10 years now. And I'm the creative director and managing partner of Blue Rocket. And today we're going to probably talk about some reasons of the importance of branding. And I narrowed it down to 3 reasons because branding is a large subject, and I wanted to narrow it down to like 3 reasons that I see that are extremely important for companies and agencies like yourselves to be branding. So I'm going to share my screen and let's get this going here. All right. Does everybody see this? Nathan, you see it? Yeah. Nathan? Okay. So 3 reasons that I see that branding is important for companies. That's what we're going to talk about today. But before I get started on the 3 reasons of why branding is important, I wanted to kind of take some time and talk about what branding actually is, since it's a very confusing and large subject. I wanted to narrow it down and make it a little bit less abstract for everybody and give a little bit of a understanding of what it is in general. So with branding, we're going to talk about, so there's 2 people. One of them is yourself. The other is the person that you're speaking to. And you say that you're a great communicator. So you say, I'm a great communicator. And this could be your company. And you could be saying that I'm great at what I do. And a lot of people think this is your branding, right? But this is not branding. This would be considered your marketing. Marketing is what you say about yourself. Okay. And then when you say it over and over and over to the person and you say, I'm a great communicator, I'm a great communicator, I'm a great communicator, this is obnoxious, right? It's also known as advertising. And what you're doing is you're putting it out there over and over and over and getting in front of this person and letting them know what you do and that you are great at what you do, okay? But it's not until the other person finally says, you're a great communicator. That is branding. So branding is what they're saying about your company and about you when you're not around. So in essence, it's gossip, right? So Marty Neumeier, author of The Brand Gap, which is a great book. It's about 90 pages. It's a great book to read if you're trying to just get a grasp of what branding is. He has said that a brand is a personal gut feeling about a product, service, or company, okay? You can't control the process, but you can influence it. And this is why we brand, right? To influence the perception of our company to our customers. And we can't control that gut feeling, but we can influence it. And that's what these 3 reasons are going to touch on. So we're going to get back to the 3 reasons of why branding is important to your company and agencies. Okay, number 1, it raises the perceived value of what you offer. Okay, so here we have a painting, okay? And say we take this beautiful painting and it's got value, right? And we add a mat around it and a beautiful flourished frame around it. What does that do to value? It raises the value of the painting, okay? But say we take that same painting and we put a poster frame around it and we put it out and try to sell it. It lowers the value, right? It's the same painting though, and nothing changed except for the frame. And once you place the frame on it, it raises the value of it. The frame is your branding, right? So the painting is your product, your service, and what you offer. But the better the framing around that painting, the better your offer, right? And that is your branding. And the reason that this is happening is because as people, we actually engage with beauty, right? So if we see something that looks really nice and really well put together, we raise the value of what that is, okay? We have Bill Gates, okay? And when Bill Gates was once asked what Steve Jobs had that he'd wished he'd had, his response was his sense of design. And he said that everything had to fit a certain aesthetic, and that the fact that with as little engineering background as Steve Jobs had, it shows that design can lead you in a good direction. Okay, so out of all the qualities that Steve Jobs had that Bill Gates could have chose from, right? His marketing genius, and everybody knows like the Think Different campaign in the early 2000s was regarded as one of the greatest campaigns in history, or his vision and seeing the future in this exact industry and his ability to build great teams. Bill Gates chose his eye for design. And that's because Bill Gates had an understanding that that's how Apple beat Microsoft in the early 2000s, is that it was beautiful and it was appealing and people wanted it. But why is this? Okay. So this is because the research shows us that the same part of our brain that is involved with aesthetic judgment and judging beauty is the same area that determines the value of something. Okay. So if we think something is beautiful, we already expect a high result from it. And because we expect that high result, we perceive it to be high value. And what does this mean for your company? This results in increased sales, less price resistance because people already value what you're selling. And it brings us to our second point. It helps you to be trusted as a brand because people feel like you get what you pay for, right? So if I'm paying for something high value, I'm going to get that. And I trust that. So second part is builds trust. Branding helps your company stay visually consistent. This helps your audience know what to expect from your brand. Okay, so here's some apples. And when we slice an apple, we already know from experience what we trust is going to be inside of it is an apple, right? So if I slice this apple, that's what we expected. That's what we wanted on the inside of this apple. Slice the second one, that's what we expected as well. Okay, so we slice the third one, well, now that's an orange. And we were not expecting that, right? And if that actually happened, you would actually lose a little bit of trust in this brand, right? You wouldn't want to buy this band of apples because you wouldn't know what to expect, what are you going to get inside of it, right? And that's what consistency creates. And consistency builds trust visually and experientially, okay? From studies, we understand that 78% of people that said they had brand trust, they said they're likely share and repost content about the brand. They'll recommend the brand to others, and they'll even defend the brand against criticism, okay? So the important part of building trust is that people who trust your brand, they'll promote it, they'll fight for it, they advocate for it. And essentially they kind of become an employee for it and they start pushing your brand and helping you market it. So that's why building trust is so important. And that's why branding is so helpful in that, right? So we're back to the two heads, right? We got the original person that the guy was talking to and telling him he was a great communicator. Well, now she finally actually believes this and she tells a friend, trust me, he's a great communicator. And this is now public relations. Now she has brand trust. Okay. People want peace and satisfaction, but they don't want to do the research. So they like to listen to other people. They like to follow and understand and listen to the brand. And when you come through on your promise consistently with consistent visuals and consistent experience, they begin to trust your brand. Okay. Studies show that 61% of consumers are more loyal to brands they trust. And this loyalty will result in obviously customer retention, better word of mouth like we were showing, and a better opportunity in upselling the customers that you have because they're staying around. It overall increases your sales and brand equity, which makes your brand worth more in the end. So trust will also build connection with your audience and keep them coming back for that experience that they trust you will give them. Okay. The third and final reason that branding is important for a company is it helps you stand out from the competition. Okay. When you're in a crowded marketplace, you have to stand out from what everyone else looks like. And there's different ways you could do this. You could do it visually. You could do it with just like using a different color than the industry is used to and just stand out, right? So everyone's looking at you. That's good. We want that. Let's look at an example. An example is this water company. They sell water and they're based in the UK. They're called Can of Water. Okay. They're in a crowded marketplace. There's a lot of bottled water companies out there. So they had to figure out how they were going to stand out in this marketplace. And they used a few methods of branding to do this. One of them was visually, they used minimalistic design, which is not common in the bottled water market. A lot of those labels are pretty overly designed and there's like mountains and springs and flowers, and they went very minimal. They used the contrasting black and white, which stands out very strong. and a very clear message. Literally on the can, it says, "Don't bottle it, natural spring water." Okay. Then they did it through their packaging. They're not using plastic bottles, they're using cans, and that's completely different than anything else you're going to see on the shelf. It's very abnormal. So when you're looking at the shelf of water in the store, that's going to stand out. And they used branding to do that. And then actually having a purpose. So if you follow any of their social media and you look at what they're doing, they're using cans because they actually want to reduce the amount of plastic in the environment. And that shows their brand morals and values, which is another subject that we can get into at some point. But it's extremely important to help build loyalty and connection. So those are some of the ways that they used branding to stand out on a store shelf that goes way long of just different water companies that have already been established, and people already kind of know what they're going to grab when they go to that shelf, but this may detract them and maybe change their mind and try something different. So they used branding to stand out and become the clear choice of water. And it's especially for people who are looking to decrease plastic in the environment and help the environment, that becomes a choice for them as well, because now they can kind of feel like they're helping in that mission. So we're going to recap now. So the four things that we're going to recap is: branding is what they say about your company, not what you say about your company. The reason it's important is it raises the perceived value of what you offer. It builds trust in your company. So it builds loyalty for customers, and then it helps you stand out so people know you're the clear choice of what to buy and what to get, and that they want to work with your company. So again, why do you brand? It makes your company the clear choice over your competition. So that's what we have today. So if you want to learn more about branding and how to effectively brand your company and agency, you can feel free to reach out to us at Blue Rocket. And we would love to sit down and help you try to figure that out, come up with clear messaging and maybe a strategy. Here you can see we say branding strategy and brand identity helps with marketing, advertising, content, all that kind of stuff. I want to thank everyone for their time today, and I hope this brought some value to you guys. Thank you.
Mike, thank you so much for that information and that time. I mean, I suppose I know like this is a brief introduction. There's a lot of information that was thrown in within that concept. Does anybody have any questions for Mike, since we have him, about the concept of branding and the things that he went over before we jump into anything else and talk about some last minute stuff? And I suppose just on your end too, Mike, I mean, what is, well, I'll answer this question. So somebody just asked, if someone wants to use your services or have that conversation, what's the first step? I mean, I know you have an answer for that one.
Yeah, so one of the first steps you could do is actually go to our site, and you can fill out the branding questionnaire review, and then it will set up a time with us to sit down, go over your brand, and then we can actually come up with a small strategy, and then we would quote and see how we can help and work with you.
So thank you very much. I want to post it in the chat to everyone, the link to the website and where that is specifically. And then someone just asked, Dustin just asked, what are the don'ts of branding?
There's a lot of don'ts of branding.
Long conversation, but if you had to boil it down to, a few things that you see as on a regular basis, how would you answer that?
The biggest don't of branding, in my opinion, is to promise one thing and do another. That hurts the trust, that hurts the experience, and that will do the exact opposite of what branding should do for you. Is people will talk about how you've promised one thing, did another. So my number one don't is to promise things and then break those promises. So make sure what you're promising is what you actually give. That's my number one advice for branding.
I know Dustin was asking you if there was a top three. Are there two other ones that you see on a regular basis?
I mean, that's probably the biggest one.
The biggest one?
That's the most important one. There's other ones, but it would probably pertain differently to different companies and stuff like that. But I would probably say that it's always just to make those promises and make sure you come through on those promises and give the customers the experience that you're promising them. Because the number one thing in branding is that second part that I brought up was the building that brand trust. So,
I would agree with that. That is something that ruins confidence very quickly, and whether that be within, personal practices of, what we're doing. And, as Dustin followed up, be honest in your dealings always.
yeah,
That's, even within the things that we portray on social media, that's something that goes along with that. And I know one of the biggest things that we talk about from a praxis standpoint, that creates that honesty and that trust, is being transparent.
Mhm.
And I think that's a big deal. And a lot of relationships are key within this industry and how we do things. And building that relationship involves transparency, honest trust, and follow through and with your promises. But Milan then asked, do you review our current branding, and what we're doing?
Yes.
Well,
Yes. So we would sit down, we would go over your current brand. We would sit and talk about the things that are done well, things that can be done a little bit better. And then we would come up with solutions to fill some of those gaps and obviously make it a lot more effective. And that effectiveness of your brand will help with your marketing and your marketing strategies and stuff like that as well. So yeah, we review the current brand. Yep.
And I know you kind of already touched base with this a little bit, but because of our relationship with Blue Rocket, one of the things that we do, is for every agent that works with us and is contract with us and every agency, we offer a free brand consultation, basically.
Yes.
So that's basically what the sheet is, we pay, Praxis pays a fee for Blue Rocket to be able to do that because we believe in branding. We also understand that the industry itself, we're not taught branding, and we're sold branding and marketing and things like that on a regular basis. I mean, I've probably gotten, a few phone calls and emails this week to do something within that concept. And that's really what we want to provide from a standpoint of a consulting aspect is if you go on that website and fill out the information, to its furthest that I'm gonna send in a second. We would love to sit down and review that information and then just do a 30-minute consultation on your personal brand, what you're doing, what that looks like. And if there's some recommendations that we can give that help you grow, that's really what we're here for. And if at the end of the day, if it's not something, if it's just a recommendation we can give, it doesn't cost you anything, any money to do, great. We're here to provide value to what you're doing. Because if you're successful, we're all successful. That's how this side of the industry works. But anything else to add on your end, Mike?
No, not that I can think of right now.
Does anybody, I know, Mike did, like I said, it was meant as a high level overview. We didn't think we were going to take the whole hour. We don't have to stare at each other's faces if we don't need to, but give me 1 second. I'm going to pull off the link, so that you can, do the, brand review if you wanted to. And then, I'll send that in the chat. So just 1 second. And then we'll go from there. But any other questions that anybody has while we have Mike about branding, marketing? Dustin, that was a great one asking about the do's and the don'ts. All right, here's the Blue Rocket link. Mike, really quick, where is I was trying to pull, where's the brand review?
It's gonna be on the homepage, so
Okay, my apologies. I should.
not a problem. Let's see.
I got it now.
Okay, I was gonna say I could get the link in there.
All right, so here's the link, everyone. Like I said, this is, and then when you go there, go to the middle, and I'll share my screen really quick so that you guys can see what that looks like. So I'm on the screen of the Blue Rocket website, and here you go, get a free branding consultation. And like I said, what we're doing on our end is, fill out this information as much as possible. Because then that allows Mike and his team to do the back end research. And then you'll schedule a meeting for 20, 30 minutes, and he'll give some recommendations and some things that would help you within that of creating your personal brand. Because I know a lot of us, we understand it's important. We know that we should be doing it, but the direction and how we do that is something that is the most difficult part. Anything else on your end, Mike? Like I said, I know we boiled it down to a half an hour, which is awesome. But anything else before we wrap up?
No, that's it. And then I hope that next time we can get more into different details, but I was trying to just give the first 3 major points that I believe are the most important. So
absolutely. So we will definitely be bringing Mike back on again, and I appreciate the time. And we will be talking very soon. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your May the 4th. And we will be talking 2 weeks. We'll have our next webinar on this side. So thank you so much and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
As a note, I will send the recording out to everyone afterwards, as always. So appreciate everyone's time. We'll talk soon.